Anna was tired after looking over the pages of waveforms and completing the measuring of the aberrations. She looked at William and saw he too looked tired. The light from the display exposed the shape of his forehead and the lines between his eyes. She loved his face. Maybe it was because she felt connected to him through their work. Maybe it was because he continued even when there was danger or when there was no hope. Or maybe because he looked to her for help even though she was only 8. But it didn't really matter. She was in this room now. And it was not her work. It was their work. It was her belonging. Although it was nearly midnight, she decided to walk outside into the fields. The moon was out, and the air was cool, but warm enough to sit without a jacket. She wasn't thinking about anything. She was just watching the clouds drift past the moon and then disappear. She wondered what it would be like to be an adult. She wondered if it would even happen. She didn't really want it to. She didn't want to be in danger like William, or silent like her mother. She didn't want to have an anti-tribe. She wanted to feel as she did now. Just another person, small and insignificant, and barely heavy enough to leave an imprint in the soil beneath her feet. William called her from the doorway, and she ran to him as hard as she could until her lungs burned and she arrived at his side. And then the strangest thing happened. Her mouth opened and she said, "I don't want to be like you." She wasn't planning on saying this. Maybe it was because she ran so hard. I don't want to have to be afraid just because of the work I do or because of grandfather's work. I want to help, but I don't want them to be my shadow too. William was taken aback. Anna looked sad. He never intended for her to know what he had known, especially at her age. "Okay," he said. "It'll be okay." As they walked inside, the door seemed heavier than usual. William turned on the alarm. He looked down the long hallway into the darkness, at the rows of doors, at the evidence, the silencing of his family. He knew he didn't really know if it would be okay, but he believed it would be. Some part of him knew this was what he was supposed to be doing. He knew without his effort many more would suffer, and he couldn't let that happen. He couldn't explain this to Anna yet, as it was better she didn't know some details. Not now. They walked into his rooms and found a place on the sofa. William turned on his remote display and placed it in his lap. Anna curled up against him and closed her eyes. He threw a blanket over her. "She'll be fine," he told himself. And just as he completed this thought, a notice of an email appeared. He read the headers, and he too closed his eyes. It was another one. His anti-tribe, they were constantly creating artificial personas which generated a multitude of messages. They weren't particularly threatening. They were just designed to let him know they were watching. But this time the email included a photo of Anna as she sat outside tonight. She doesn't want to be afraid. He said this to himself as he transferred the email to the archive. And then he got a notice of a voicemail. He put on his headset and listened. It was sent anonymously and was a copy of an old threat left on his father's phone long ago. It seemed to William to just be a reminder of his father's fate. He felt weary, but determined. They spend so much energy on this effort. And for what? For nothing. He leaned back and drifted into sleep. He would get up earlier tomorrow to start the next phase of his work. Anna. He said her name again.